So one of the most notable differences between the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and Christianity is this notion of a preexistence. In Mormonism, the idea that all of us existed before we were born here on earth is a really central belief for people. For a lot of people, it's even really emotional. They love that doctrine. As Christians, we don't believe in the same idea of a preexistence. When God created everything, He created us too. And Adam and Eve, we don't believe that they pre-existed before that, but that God created them with both a body and a spirit. And a lot of times we like looking at passages such as John 8 to kind of help Latter-day Saints understand our view on that. John 8 verse 23 says this. This is Jesus speaking. He says to them, "You are from below, I am from above. You are of this world, I am not of this world." And we love texts like this. It's just really clear. But we've talked about a lot of what the Gospel of John has to say about the preexistence in a previous video. But there's one text that we didn't bring up in that video that is one that I've come to really love for helping my Latter-day Saint friends understand what we think about the preexistence. So in the book of Job, which is a really cool book about this dude named Job, he was a wealthy man. He had lots of sheep and oxen and llamas and I don't know, all sorts of cool stuff, and disaster struck him. We get this kind of behind the scenes view of where Satan comes to God and God says, "Satan, have you considered my servant Job? Take a look at how faithful he is." And Satan's like, "Well, he's only faithful because you've given him so much." And God's like, "Well, then take it away and let's see what happens. But just don't harm him." And so Satan goes and takes away everything. His kids die, all of his belongings are just destroyed. And then after that, Satan goes back and God allows Satan to even take away his health. And after this, the majority of the book of Job is the story of Job and his friends having these kinds of rounds of conversations about what is going on here? Why did this happen to Job? Was there injustice on Job's part? Was he unrighteous? And Job responding, saying, "No, I haven't done anything that would deserve this." And after a couple rounds of this, and his friends talking, Job talking, finally God answers. It's one of my favorite texts in the entire Bible. So if you look at Job chapter 38, it's when God first speaks, first enters the conversation. I'm going to read just starting at verse 1. "Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, 'Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Dress for action like a man. I will question you and you make it known to me.'" Just pause as a side note. I think it's pretty awesome that God's like, "Dress like a man, I'm about to talk to you." It's just a cool verse. Anyway, so he says then in verse 4, "Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? On what were its bases sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy." Now in Mormonism, this idea of the sons of God or the gods that are in the heavens is often thought of as the spirit children of Heavenly Father. But that does not fit with what God is saying here in Job. God is essentially showing the huge difference between who Job is and who God is. God is the creator. He created heaven and earth and everything that existed. He determined what earth was going to be like, not Job. Job didn't even exist yet. So God starts off with these kind of rhetorical questions saying, "Where were you when I laid the foundation of the world?" The implied answer is, you were nowhere. You didn't exist. That's where you were. God is greater than Job, and the point is God can do what he wants. Job does not get to question God. Job does not get to be the judge of God's actions. God is the creator, and God is the judge, and that's his point. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? And then he says, when the morning stars sang together and all the sons shouted for joy. So in other words, where were you, Job, when all the sons of God shouted for joy? Now this implies something really, really critical if you catch it here. It means that the sons of God were the gods that Mormons often point to throughout passages like this in the Old Testament. Job is not counted amongst them. Job, a human, supposedly one of our spirit brothers, was not one of these sons of God, right? And Job was a different class of being. So Christians understand this to mean that at creation, God created the heavens and the earth. God alone created the heavens and the earth. And at that time, the angelic hosts, the angels in heaven, who are very different than humans, who are not the same class of being as humanity, well, those angels sang for joy. They were delighted at the work that God was doing. But Job did not exist yet. Job was not counted amongst them. He was yet to be created. And God brings this up as the starting point for his onslaught against Job's response to everything God had done. This text does not allow for the idea that Job pre-existed and was present when God created the heavens and the earth, along with all his spirit siblings. God is clearly making the point here that Job was not present at the creation.